Okay, I chose the clown filter because Lauren from Hidden True Crime is a clown. You struck Kresha down for what? For showing the text that we all knew were going to come out? What exactly are you doing? Do you have a PR person or anybody who can help you? Because this is ridiculous. Now that are you going to strike everybody? Because she can put them out on other platforms like X or Facebook where you can't strike her down. You can't get them taken down. Then what? The truth always finds a way. Always.
Glad that I left a little room to be wrong on this situation because we know that it's gotten way more complex in the last few days. So my initial thought about all of this was that, and I still think this, I think that Lauren's fear and emotions are genuine. My perspective on what is motivating those fears has shifted pretty significantly. So initially I felt that she was genuinely afraid for her life, but now I see that she's afraid for her livelihood, which is valid, right? Nobody wants to lose their job. But from my understanding, they're very financially stable. And so interesting to me that they're so concerned for their financial well-being that they would take the offensive and try to paint themselves as the victims in this situation before all this other stuff has been released. One thing that I did notice from her first video was that she never identified who this former contractor was or what the conflict was between them. All she said was like, my contractor called me, and it was weird because it was connected to Christina confronting her. And then the contractor called her that night and made some crazy accusations and quit the job. And Lauren was very upset about that. That to me stood out because she never identified who that person was and why they quit, what the accusations were. So that was like a little ping in my brain, like, let's bookmark that for later. I still don't know what the backstory was on that. Has that person been identified and what the situation was there? If so, please let me know. When I watched Dr. John's response from the other night, I very much enjoyed it. I like that kind of commentary. It was a little bit excessive. Like I said, I felt like he used the word moral so many times that I could have played a drinking game, like the next time he says moral, let's take a shot, because he said it so many fucking times. And I felt like the message was getting lost there. But Turtle Boy was talking about how who listens to this shit? He's trying to sound so smart. And it's like, I don't think he's trying to sound smart. I think that's just how he is. I think that's his resting state. So I don't really take issue with that. But I do enjoy that kind of commentary, like getting philosophical about things and looking at it from a very clinical perspective, where I think that has backfired on him. And I know because I have a master's in counseling psychology, is that you have to be really careful when you personally are going through something in real time. Like, it's better to give it a lot of breathing room before you make commentary on it, because you're more likely to be dramatic and overly emotional if you're doing it in the moment. So that really came through. I feel like he was trying to apply his clinical knowledge to a situation that is highly emotional, which made him seem very irrational. Like some of the, he claims that he could make a really valid risk assessment based on his professional experience in looking at this situation. I do feel that the quote unquote death threats are very overblown. Like the lyrics that someone used in a video, like the Eminem song, I'm going to make you eat your words. Like, how did they take that as a threat? I don't know. I never really felt like that was something. I will say that this gal, Christina, does come off very negatively. Like, if I had somebody like her making countless videos about me, I would take issue with that. So I really do believe that Dr. John and Lauren genuinely feel afraid. But again, is that fear based in like they're worried for their safety, or are they worried for their financial safety? Because that is a big difference, right? Because there's different motivations there for filing a lawsuit against this person. The stalker claims. One thing that I did find interesting was that Lauren had said that Lori Hellis sent her a manuscript, but she didn't send it to anyone. But then she also says, I sent it to 4 people. So I watched her video again and I was like, okay, there's some things that I missed here because she was like saying one thing but then contradicting herself immediately after. I didn't send it to anyone. I only sent it to, my fact checker and this person and this person and this person. Well, that is not sending it to nobody. That's sending it to these people. I don't know if she sent it to 10,000 people. I feel like that might be an emotional reaction on Lori Hellis's part. But if I had written a book and sent a manuscript to someone in my industry who I felt was a trustworthy and ethical individual and they sent it to anybody, I would feel like that is a major breach of trust and it speaks to this person's character in a way that would make me take a step back. And then there's multiple people who have had similar experiences with Lauren like that, where in the position that she's in, she should understand those kinds of like rules. There's like unspoken rules when it comes down to like, holding certain secrets, holding things in confidence, and being more cautious around the ways in which people trust you. This kind of situation fascinates me. This is my jam. I love like looking at all these kinds of things from an analytical point of view. And also, one thing that I know about myself that I have to get better at is I have a really strong gut intuition about things, and often I'll kind of override it because I'm like, let me give this situation a chance. I will say that when I first turned on Lauren's 9-hour video, when she came at it from like, how dare Law and Crime try to, live stream this court proceeding, like my initial gut feeling was like, wait a minute. This is what Lauren does. So why does she feel like she should be exempt from this situation? But then she started getting to the explanation of how this is different because it's a stalking situation and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, maybe my instinct on this is wrong. Let me just listen to this. I got to get better at just like taking that gut instinct and going with it instead, because usually that instinct that I have at first glance is correct. And now I understand that that's where she was, quote unquote, allegedly weaponizing the legal system because she wanted to keep all this under wraps. So she had to make it a stalking situation in order to feel like the court would protect her and not allow this kind of thing to be live streamed. I don't know if I just made any sense. Anyway, this situation is so fascinating. It's very reminiscent of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation, which I followed very closely. I kind of stopped listening to it a few months back because it just was starting to get a little bit too, like, petty and without substance. But this situation is interesting. I'll be curious to see, like, how this all shakes out. I think if I've learned anything from personal life experience, it's that hold everything very lightly and go with your gut on certain things, but don't make too many snap judgments about who's in the right and who's in the wrong, because things can change from day to day. I'm actually really genuinely surprised that all these other people came forth with the receipts, because they kept saying, oh, we have the receipts. They're coming. And I was like, well, then where are they? But then all of a sudden, all these people came out of the woodwork and I'm like, okay, so they were serious. Like, there's a lot to back all this stuff up. But anyway, I'm going to dig into it some more and I'll have some more things to say about it in the coming days.